Welcome to the One Rock at a Time podcast. I'm Caley.
And I'm Paul.
So we just got through with the holiday season. And we just got back from Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
And we just celebrated 2 years of our wedding anniversary.
Woo, best years of my life.
So we went to Canada right before Christmas. We got home on Christmas Eve. We went to see my sister-in-law, Brittany. We got to go skiing in Banff, which was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't want to name names. We had a great time. We had a super great time skiing. And I'm not going to point, fingers, but someone that I know very, very well was like, I don't think I need ski lessons. I think I've got this. How hard could it be?
How hard could it be? You're just falling down a hill, right?
No, quite literally falling down the hill. Mm-hmm. We get up top to the mountain and I've been skiing since I was a year and a half. We actually found a photo of me at a year and a half skiing. Okay. Like, mind you, I'm like on the bunny slopes and stuff with like little kids. But you know what? I didn't have to see him get taken down by ski patrol. We did call ski patrol, but he was kind enough to let me go on. Mm-hmm. And so I went down the mountain and then I went back up the mountain so that I didn't catch him getting, that would have given me the ick so bad to see you getting pulled down that mountain.
What? It was so fun. They put a tarp over me. I was in like a little sled.
He was having a great time.
Yeah, that was the most fun part of coming down the hill was, not having my life in my own hands, but instead in a professional. So
don't worry. I will add a picture of him falling down the hill. He was doing somersaults, man, down this hill.
Yeah. And I'm trying really hard not to blame the skis because, I know as a person who's never taken a lesson, it's definitely operator error. But I swear every time I would go fast, my fucking boot would slide off. I'd throw that ski over my head. I was doing somersaults.
He's not a very good pizza-er.
No, my pizza was too hot. It burned my mouth.
And yeah, so we came back we drove 36 hours straight and came back on Christmas Eve. And then we had a really low-key Christmas. It was amazing. Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, we didn't intend to drive 36 hours straight.
No, we did not.
Like hour 6 or so in, Kaylee looks over to me and goes, would it be crazy if we just drove straight through so we can get our puppies? I miss my puppies.
I did miss my puppies. And we saved 2 days worth of boarding because they're closed on Christmas. We got there 30 minutes before they closed for Christmas Eve. And we would have had to pick them up on the 26th. So we would have had to pay for 2 more days.
Yeah. But instead, we got to have Christmas with our 3 little snuggle bugs.
And our babies. And we kept it pretty low key. We celebrated our anniversary that following weekend on the 28th. And we kept that pretty low key too. We wanted to record a podcast. And so we did. We recorded this very topic, which is going no contact, setting boundaries, all that. We recorded that. And then we said, as we're editing, I was like, hey, I think we need to redo it because it turned into a very therapeutic, and I think we needed it, and it was very timely. Mm-hmm. It was a very therapeutic thing for both of us, but we knew we could clean it up a little bit more, and we also didn't want to put so much of our business out there just yet. Like it was too much. Mm-hmm. It was too much.
We started trauma dumping.
Yes.
I started trauma dumping.
Yes.
Instead of actually getting to the point of what no contact is and why it would be important to some of us. And I
toyed with the idea in my head of, at first I was like, well, maybe we just need to scratch this topic altogether because it does come with, we're no contact with a lot of these people that we're talking about, but it doesn't mean they're not going to see this and have strong reactions. But I actually felt that as I was watching it, I was like, I think that we can clean this up. And I think that there's things that are like important for other people to hear. I think it's nice to hear other people who have gone no contact, hear their stories and hear how they navigate it. And honestly, a huge part of our story is the family dynamic that you had and how that affected our relationship and how we've built our relationship and how we've healed it. And it was Christmas, so we were not seeing a lot of people for many reasons, not just the no contact that does come into play, but also like our wedding anniversary, like our wedding and things about our wedding was a big catalyst for a no contact situation with a lot of your family. So I felt like it was necessary. I feel like this conversation's necessary, and I feel like it can help other people out there who are having similar struggles. So we decided we're going to stay on this topic. We're going to clean it up to where we're not just trauma dumping and we're reporting the facts. So I think the best place to start would be to start with Paul's childhood, because you typically, when you go no contact, it's not an overnight thing. Unless there's a big blow up fight, it's not overnight. It's something that's been building for years and years. And in his case, has been building for about 30 years. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you're going to talk about your childhood, because I was not a part of that. That has nothing to do with me. Go ahead.
So in every family, there's a certain behavior that's considered normal. In most families, if someone's yelling at you, that's a big thing. If a lot of people draw their line at physical violence, as long as I'm not beating you, you should be okay with what I'm doing to you. Some people, it's swearing. If you swear at them, that's their line. They don't want to go through it anymore. My family, I was subjected to a lot of just verbal abuse. I remember watching movies of drill sergeants and all those dudes, the infantrymen getting yelled at and being called a maggot. They seemed like they were taking it really hard. I was like, is this a problem? What? Mom talks to me like that to wake me up. What's going on here? And it took a long time to realize that wasn't normal. That's not something that I should be allowing. I remember coming home from school and every day just hoping that mom's having a good day. Because if she doesn't, I'm not going to have a good day. My mom, she went through a bunch of different cycles of 3 months of just vitriol she would spew at us. And then she'd be okay for a little bit, and then she'd be a great mom. She'd be so nice. And whenever she was nice, I was like, yeah, this is great. It'll stay this way again. She's going to be okay. And then it slowly went back into the cycle the other way. And it really normalized people not treating me well. I would get screamed at. I'd be blamed for stuff that, as a child, I had no control over.
Well, it really sets you up for your future. What do you allow for, not just, friendships, but relationships, and not just family,
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that kind of spread to the rest of our family too, to where, that was acceptable behavior. It took a lot of work through a fair amount of my siblings for us to realize that's not what we want to do. We shouldn't be treating our children, each other, with malice. But growing up, it really put a sour taste in my mouth. Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, 4th of July, any major holidays where stress was involved. Those were triggers for my mom. And she would often turn those holidays into traumatic experiences for us, that we would have a plan and then something would go wrong and then she'd shatter it. For me, the most impactful parts of those was my birthday. I remember growing up, my mom would, right around my birthday every year, she would have a bad period. I don't know if it's seasonal depression played a role in it, or if she had some triggers that happened around that same time of year. But every year on my birthday, there was something bad that was happening, and she really took it out on me. The line she'd like to say, I'm a relatively big fella. I've been almost 6 foot since I was 12. I was a big guy. I think I worked in the oil field with my uncle, and I was stout. I was a hefty boy, and I took on some manly features relatively early. Unfortunately, my mom didn't have the best relationship with men, and most of the men in her life would hurt her, and she projected onto me that I was going to do that too. So right around my birthday, you start to thinking, my boy, you're a big, strong man now. Why don't you just go off and make it on your own? And she would kick me out. starting at like a really young age. I want to say the first time I was kicked out was like 13.
Wow.
I made good grades. I didn't yell. I kept my room relatively tidy. I don't remember being a bad kid. But then again, who remembers being a bad kid?
I don't know. I remember when I was doing bad things. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe
Maybe you were just a good kid. You were. He was a dork.
I was a dork.
Very cute dork. I
wanted to play video games. I worked to make sure I had like school clothes and stuff ready. I tried my best because when a parent is kind of absentee because they're going through troubles and sometimes can't get out of bed, we pick up the slack and we kept the house running. Myself and my siblings, whenever mom wasn't around, we'd make dinner. We'd make sure things were clean. We'd keep everything going. I felt like I wasn't outwardly a dickhead. I was doing everything I could to keep everything running. And still, my mom would get in the habit of kicking me out on my birthday. Unfortunately, that would mean that I just go stay with a buddy for like 2 weeks until she calmed down and I come back. But that really like led me to think that my birthday wasn't about me. Doesn't matter. Someone else has got something going on. Fuck my birthday.
Which comes into play later in our story for sure.
Yeah. So
and then as you got older with your mom, like when you graduated, how did that like dynamic shift since she couldn't kick you out anymore? I guess like.
So once I graduated high school, I stayed with I stayed living at the house for a little bit and went to community college. One, it's way cheaper. Two, to make sure that my sister had, a means to getting to and from school and that she could graduate. That's right. What I wanted to do is make sure she wasn't left alone. Maybe like September, right around my birthday again. We were all living in the house. And my mom was fine with me at that time. I think it was because I was working while I was going to school and kind of keeping the lights on. My sister, however, she got real mad at my sister and kicked my sister out. I was like, all right, cool. If Lucy's not in there, she's living with grandma. She's going to be safe. I don't have to be here anymore. I left and went to college. My mom told me that I was an idiot for leaving for college and that I was a piece of shit for abandoning her. What kind of person wants their kid who had good enough grades to get into college was able to finance it on their own, with loans and stuff, but yeah. I was able to take care of myself and go to college. She didn't want that to happen and berated me for doing that. Ugh.
Yuck.
So whenever I would do something for myself, like going to college, it was a problem.
Yeah. Whenever
I would stick around, it was also a problem because I wasn't doing anything in my life.
Have you ever considered that you may be the problem?
That's the common denominator here.
You may be the problem. Whether I'm here or gone. Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding, obviously. Mm-hmm. I think you're great.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you too. Anyways, moving on. Sorry. Yes, very sad. Anyways.
So as life progressed, I stayed in contact with my mom whenever I could. I was at college. I wasn't doing too much. But something else that stuck out to me was every time I would call her, we would spend like the hour conversation. Overwhelming majority of it was, why don't you talk to me more? You suck for not calling me. You're a piece of shit that we don't keep in more contact. And at the end of my first year of being away, I remember telling her, well, yeah, this is why I don't want to talk to you. Every time we talk, you spend the majority of the time telling me I'm a piece of shit.
For not calling. Right. Which surprisingly doesn't make you want to call, I guess.
Yeah. Hell no, it doesn't. And it kept going. I graduated from college, spent a couple of years away from home because I didn't want to go back there. I spent some time, or 2 years out on a contract in the oil field. And whenever I came home, things kept happening. It seemed like, I think I came home right at one of my mom's upswings. So she was doing pretty good. She started opening a restaurant, which was pretty cool. All of our family tried to get together and help whenever we could. We would go up there and help her get it going. And, I don't know if you've ever worked with a family member before, but
Don't do it.
it's a high stress situation. Oftentimes your family commitments,
Supersede.
no, depending on how your family dynamic is set, that'll bleed into your professional setting too.
Absolutely.
If you imagine that your family member is a fuck up and you start working with them, you're going to assume they're fucking up at work too. If your dynamic is to yell, berate, and blame everything on your family members, you're going to do that in the professional setting as well.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my mom fell into that as well. One of the first times I tried to set a boundary with my mom, we were all together at a restaurant. I was helping out behind the bar, which I think is a fun little anecdote. I went through 4 years of college without working in the service industry. Never had to wait tables, never worked at a restaurant, nothing. Never was a bartender.
So proud of you.
Yeah. Wasn't until I came home after I had a degree and a successful business that I was a bartender. I thought that was a fun little thing. So I was helping my mom, not getting paid for it, just saying, hey, Mom, I want to make sure that what you're doing becomes successful. What can I do to help? So on occasion, I would go up there and, run the bar, do dishes, sometimes. Like there was a big trailer we brought out and I was making food every once in a while. I did whatever I could to help. And my mom, on her bad times, she would talk to all these strangers because she's real talkative. You think I'm a gabber. My mom can talk. That might be part of the reason why I can talk, where I talk to people at grocery stores, gas stations, anybody that's just around. I'll chat with them. Why not? I think I got that from my mom.
Nightmare.
Well, some of the things she would talk about is how her children were terrible people, real pieces of shit, and that they were doing this and that she didn't like. And then she would turn around and say, have you met my son? This is my son, Paul.
Here's the piece of shit in question right here.
Yeah, that happened a lot. And I told her, Mom, I can't. I do not want to be here if that's what's going to happen. If you spend all this time telling strangers, your customers, how your children are terrible and then turn around and introduce your children. One, you probably shouldn't be airing your dirty laundry out like that.
Yeah.
Like in front of people anyway, that you don't know. That
In
you
a professional setting.
Yeah, in a professional setting. That wasn't where it's at. But we had a conversation about it around my birthday, actually. I said, Mom, I can't be doing this. No. The next time that happens, I won't be coming back. I'm not going to help you anymore. Right around Thanksgiving, we were trying to plan who's doing the turkey, where we're going, what are we doing. I believe my mom said she wanted to do it all. She was excited. She's got it. She's making a 12-course meal. She's got a 10-pound turkey. She's bringing the whole family over, everyone coming to her house. Like a week before, she said, fuck that shit. I ain't doing turkey. I'm canceling Thanksgiving. All right. So my siblings and I were like, well, we'll do Thanksgiving over at my house. Not a problem. I learned how to deep fry a turkey. We were setting up different casseroles. All my siblings were bringing different side dishes. We were set. We said, yeah, Mom, come on over. We'd be happy to have you. That's not the story that customers got over at a restaurant. She was like maybe the week before Thanksgiving. She was toying with the idea of keeping her restaurant open for Thanksgiving. That way people can come and have it there. I was like, well, Mom, you were going to do that for us. We don't want to come here. We've already set this up because you canceled Thanksgiving. So we're going to continue being in our house. I don't think that's a good idea. Once you're done over here, come to our house. We'd love to have Thanksgiving with you. The story she told was, my kids don't love me. They fucking suck. And they.
Your voice for her has changed 3 times and I'm dying.
Well, when she
has different voices. I
does
get it.
have different voices.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
But she told this person how big of pieces of shit we are, and then turned around and introduced her son, Paul. I said, nice to meet you, sir. I took my stuff and I left. I hadn't talked to my mom for several months after that.
Y'all had a very cyclical relationship in that way, right? Like it would be good for a few months and then bad based on how she was doing, right? Yeah.
I'd never blocked my mom. It was like, if she called, she can leave a voicemail. If it's important, I will handle it. Even when we weren't talking, she would have some sort of emergency. she would call, leave a voicemail. Paul, my roof is leaking.
And you'd always come through.
I'd go fix it. Yeah. And that's kind of how it was. So it was semi no contact. It was, I don't want to hear your bullshit, but I'll help you when I can. Because you're family.
Yeah. And family helps family.
Ridiculous. I'm a firm believer in if someone asks for help, help them. But there's a point that you reach that people are taking advantage of your kindness. And I felt like that was happening more and more. But I just didn't know how to identify it.
Yeah.
Any hoozle. Again, she goes through like 3-month cycles of she's real bad and she's real good. Depending on the medication she was taking or what she was doing to, like if she wasn't drinking at the time, sometimes those would extend. So from me telling her or leaving a restaurant and saying, I'm not going to be helping you anymore. Maybe 8 months later, my brothers and sisters said, she's doing so much better. She's doing great. Come on, let's do something. Let's get together. Okay. And we started getting together again. And I think the next time that I like tried to set another boundary with my mom was when my sister got pregnant.
That was right before we got together.
Mm-hmm. There was some just bender night where she was saying some unkind things about my sister. And I told my mom that I would not allow that type of bullshit to come out of her mouth. Do not speak that way about my siblings. I'm not going to have it. Because I've been, like, I was just getting progressively sick of it.
Yeah.
The more you're outside of, your family dynamic, and I think at this time I had just left my construction company, which was with my mom and a business partner, for like the corporate world. And things are so much different when you're not with people that you're related to. I found out that yelling at someone is considered verbal assault. That if someone swore at me at my corporate job, they could be fired. That's not the way people are supposed to be treated. And it really opened my eyes to, we're not doing what we should. We treat each other really poorly. And I had always thought, don't swear at people, don't talk shit about people, just because I hated it when my mom did it.
Yeah.
And
you stopped talking to her for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know during COVID, we started talking. This was like May of 2020 that we started talking. And then you kind of weren't talking to your mom. Mm-hmm. You still were, I will say you were doing the, if she needed something, you're there, whatever. You weren't completely no contact, but you definitely were on the outs with her. Mm-hmm. So I guess now it comes into our story, mm-hmm. I suppose.
Well, I think part of it was I hated the idea. I remember our neighbor had said he didn't talk to his brother. I was like, that sounds wild. I don't know why you wouldn't talk to your family. They're your family. It was kind of like brainwashed that if they're your family, you should allow them to treat you however they want to treat you.
Because that's your family.
Yeah.
Well, and it was also the dynamic of not just your immediate family, but your aunts and uncles. At the end of the day, your mom is still family. You didn't have the support from your aunts and uncles to say that you should be treated better. It was just oh, that's just your mom,
Well, and I didn't like going to family functions like Thanksgiving and things because the way my mom treated us was the same way she treated other people.
Yeah.
My aunts and uncles, through various stages of our lives, did not talk to my mom.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be like that. I thought that was weakness. Why aren't you doing that? And whenever I would go, we would go without my mom. As soon as I was able to drive, I was going to, Thanksgiving, Christmas with the other side of the family, my mom or not. And overwhelmingly, there would be at least one family member that would come over and tell me how much a piece of shit my mom was. And it took 3-4 years before I said, why are you telling me this? I'm not my mom. I know what she's done. Everything you're telling me, she's told me.
All right. So now I'm going to go into the beginning of our relationship. And mind you, what you were doing with your mom then was not no contact.
It was not, no.
That was it was a cyclical on and off. She could still reach you, still reachable. There was still some contact, but it was minimal contact. So I just knew that your mom and you were not very close. That was all I knew going into the relationship. So when I first started dating you, I was actually really, really excited because you had a huge family, lots of siblings, and my parents had just passed a couple years prior. So I was like, and my siblings had all kind of like split as that people heal and grieve. Like you kind of, there's a little bit of distance there. And my siblings, only like 2 of them live within like close driving distance, really. So the other ones are everywhere. So I was excited. Because I was going to be with someone who had like a big family, and I was going to be able to go to Thanksgivings and stuff that I hadn't been doing, because when my parents died, like we had a small family on my mom's side, and nobody was doing holidays. So I was excited for like a very brief moment.
Because your parents, like your mom died around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the day before Thanksgiving.
So that's got a sour taste on it already.
Yeah, when she only had one brother and then my Nana. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of stopped doing Thanksgiving after my mom passed. Like we did that one Thanksgiving, literally the day after she passed. And that was like, maybe that scarred everyone. I don't know.
Your dad was like Father Christmas?
Yes. My dad was big on Christmas. And I kind of like, I will go into that later, but I did kind of go no contact with a lot of people in that way. But yeah, so I was excited because I was hoping that, you know, me and the kids could have these new holidays with like a big extended family, and it was going to be great. And I was excited for a very short time. And then I was like, quickly, I was not excited. And I do want to preface this because I think it's important to say that, like, by no means am I like a victim in this situation. I did have things done to me that were not okay, and I can identify that they were not okay. I did do tremendous amount of therapy based on a lot of stuff that happened over the past 5 years almost. And I'm not going to touch on all of it, but there are several people involved. There are several sides to the story. People hurt people. I truly believe that. I did wrong things too. We all did. Mm-hmm. Could have done things better, but I just wanted to preface that before I get into it, because this is just our version of events and how they've impacted our relationship. So when I got with you, you were living with one of your sisters, mm-hmm. and got along great at first. It was all fun. And then,
we all knew each other from high school.
Right. By no means were like we really like close friends, but we met in high school. Mm-hmm. But we got along really great in the beginning, and I would say that like I learned the dynamics. Like it was like great for like 2 months, I would say, and then I started to learn like how you fit in, and like how when you were talking earlier about your childhood, like, you know, you stayed behind for your sister. You were like the father and caretaker. And that's something that they say later on, like that was the role that you played. You were like the father to them. And so I can understand. And I was always very empathetic for like what your sister, especially the one that lived with you, was feeling about having me come in with 2 kids and all that. And I always was like understanding, but at the same time I would like cry myself to sleep because it was a constant, like, I was told I couldn't come over here because, you know, I had to be like, whenever his sister was like, she couldn't predict when she was in a bad mood and wouldn't want company. That's not my words. These are not my words.
Yeah, that might be a direct quote. That's
a direct quote. Okay. And she wanted a schedule of when I was allowed to come over. Okay.
I think that might have actually been my idea. I said, hey,
you were trying to play the peacemaker, and because she was like, she's over here too much. He owns this house. And I know he never pulled that card, like, this is my house. He never did that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm a grown woman. I'm 28 years old at this time. I'm no longer that young. I'm 28 years old.
Don't look a day over 24, babe.
Thank you. And I'm like, seriously, even the sister who did this, I want you to imagine that you as a grown woman, someone comes to you who is not your mother, not your grandmother, no relation to you, and says, you can only see your boyfriend on the days that I say so. It's not great. And I don't do well with authority. And you are not my boss. So like, I definitely did not appreciate that. That was no fun, no bueno. And it was just like a constant like power struggle of like, whose house is it anyways? Not like with him, it was like me and her, like, this is my space, like, and I was just trying to be with my boyfriend. To me, I like was falling in love. I was trying to blend my life, blend my children all together, see how that worked.
And change is hard.
Yes. And I did acknowledge how hard that was.
But I didn't realize that I always just thought I was easygoing. Whatever. If it's not like life changing, it shouldn't fucking matter. My sister wants to decorate the downstairs. Sure, whatever. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't hurt my life. I'm gonna be in my room. But I effectively gave her free reign of the house. I was working a lot and I was gallivanting. I was off.
Being a hoe.
It didn't matter to me, these small things. But whenever I wanted to be around more, it felt like we were invading her space.
Right. And again, I wasn't trying to like take anyone's territory, but like it came to a point where he wants his girlfriend to move in, like wants me to move in. And I'm like, I want to live here with you too. Like, we're spending all the time together in the world. Makes sense, right? Like,
imagine I bought my house with 4 bedrooms because I wanted there to always be a place for the people I loved. That way, if something ever happened, I've got a spot for you. I took advantage of spare rooms more often than some other folks because I was kicked out every year. I wanted to make sure people had a safe space to go. Unfortunately, whenever we started getting together, my sister, she made it no longer a safe space. She made it to where it was a fight to be here. My home didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a fucking boxing ring.
Yeah. And there was a lot of like domestic disputes, just like we were always arguing over just stuff like, should you be hand washing or should you actually use a dishwasher? Like, stop using paper towels to wipe these things. It was like stuff like that. It was just like, and I felt that I couldn't do anything right. I was constantly doing things differently than she did them. And it's kind of like, it felt very much like I was living with, if you've ever lived with a significant other's mother, you will understand. That is what I felt like. And it was frustrating. And then she got a boyfriend and, we all had some space and it was fine. And it was never fine until she moved out. Honestly, it was constant back and forth, but we did get some breaks here and there. Mm-hmm. And so like the first year of our relationship is battling it out, like with his sister and all of our just like literally we weren't fighting over like normal things that like couples fight about in the beginning. We were fighting over his family. Mm-hmm.
What are some things that normal people fight about early in the relationship?
Like it should have been me and you fighting over like how to adjust to living with each other.
Like
we weren't
hygiene.
Yeah, we weren't fighting like
how often we do dishes.
We weren't having any of the domestic issues or anything. We weren't fighting. I can't think of anything normal people fight about anymore. But like,
you only know the extremes.
I don't know. And so then like. And then the next year, 2021, I left my job because I was going to start my own business. And I have done that. And it is successful. Woo! And
Archer's Thread, check it out.
His family was less than thrilled. Okay. So the freeze happened right after, like a big freeze happened right after I left my job. And we ended up at one of his other sisters, love you. And she let us stay there. She let like all of the family stay there, and it was not great. They were upset. They felt that I was, gold digging because I was quitting my job and I was just trying to take all his money. And we live a modest life. And if I wanted to be a gold digger, I think I could have gone a little higher.
Could have found a better mind.
I'm sorry. Could have found a better mind. You're cute, love you, but that wasn't why I was with you. Mm-hmm. But I get it. And I was like, you know what? I understand. I have 2 kids and it's a stereotype of single moms. I understand. I get where you're coming from. Okay. I'm not even gonna fault you for that. Did it hurt? Yes. But
not a motherfucker one asked what we were doing. Why is that the case? Tell me about the situation.
And I just felt like none of them knew me enough to make any type of assessment about me. The only thing they knew was what his sister that lived with him was saying, which was that I was obviously a demon monster taking her territory. And I get it. A million things that came into play, and it was our business. We made a decision. We had a conversation. And we loved each other. We were planning on being with each other. Nobody else needed to know that. But so then, again, we're trapped at his sister's house. And his brother had just very strong opinions of our relationship as well, and was like very adamant that, you know, Paul not be with me anymore. I was a gold digger. He was not a fan of me, and again, does not know me well enough to make that assessment. And he ended up, you know, asking. I was holding his sister's baby, and he was like, "Are y'all gonna have kids?" And I think it was my final straw, and he was like, he had egged me on earlier. He was like, yeah, you can stand up for yourself. Absolutely. If he says something out of pocket, because he had been, I can't list all the things he said, but he had just been like picking at me that whole weekend. And he was like, you know what? Like, I give you full permission. Because again, I had barely knew any of these people. And so you don't ever want to like rock the boat and start, you know, pissing off the family. But he was like, do it. I don't care. Like, I was like, all right, I got to support. So I was like, no, we're not having any kids. Not that it's any of your business, because I hate when people are all up in people's uteruses. Leave them alone. Like, it's none of your business. And then he's like, it is my business. He's my brother. And I think that day I really learned the dynamics, because you didn't even see the dynamics. You didn't even see what they thought, like you didn't see where they had put you. Right. So it was bad. He was screaming at me. Like, it was a bad day. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it was a bad day. It was very traumatizing to be yelled at by someone I don't know. And his family was very much like, this is my brother. This is my business. Like, he's mine. And I was just like, oh my God, like, let him go. What are you doing? Like, and,
which is wild, because maybe my brother was the only person I was really sharing any type of personal details with.
Right. But they had all put you in the not getting married and not having kids box, and then you're getting serious with someone. And I think that just like messed up their whole dynamic, which to be fair, your codependency is also, their codependency is not your fault. It's not your problem, which it was. You were complacent in it, and you
definitely
enabled it a lot.
For sure.
But
people pleasing turned out to be actually enabling. There's a term for that. More vocabulary.
So I think after like the freeze happened, and I like that, it was a big blow up thing. My
mom said something along the lines of,
it's, I love this line. This is the great line. She sat down, like, after I'm still crying from being yelled at. And, she's like, well, it's just, you see, we always thought that he'd be with someone who looked more like, like J-Lo.
Which is fucked up. Because how old's J-Lo?
55.
So roughly the age of my mom.
Yeah.
My mom wants me to be banging someone her age.
And also, you couldn't pull J-Lo. Just saying.
You're the most beautiful woman in the world. What are you talking about?
I am beautiful.
J-Lo,
I thought I was cute. I'm pretty cute, okay? I don't even care.
Most beautiful woman on the planet.
But I was just like, okay.
On this one.
I did laugh a little bit. Like, I thought that, like, it was more comical than it was hurtful. And also, like, I cared a lot more about your siblings liking me than I did your mother, because to me, your mother was not going to be a permanent fixture in my life. I don't know why I thought that, but
because we talked about it.
Well, it was just because like y'all were so on and off that it was just like, she's not going to be a consistent part of my life. And then
I think like maybe the two interactions you've had with my mom were here at the house.
Right.
Like
that Lucy,
one time I told her
that your sister invited her over here. That was the only time I saw her.
Mm-hmm. I remember the first time my mom kept saying I needed a fire pit in my backyard. And I had said in no uncertain terms, Mom, I do not want a fire pit. Please do not make a fire pit. We get a call 5:30 in the morning that someone's burning shit in my backyard. Guess what my mom did?
No, that's not what happened.
Oh, what happened?
No. She said, you said, Mom, please don't, no fires. Like, no fires at my house. No fires. And I woke up to get ready for work, and at 5:30 in the morning, your mom's outside starting a fire, and the fire is ablazing. And then a teenage boy came over, and because one of my neighbors was concerned that my house might have been on fire, because who is starting a fire at 5:30 a.m. on a Thursday? Your mother, that's who. And so I go to the door, and the teenager's like, do you know that there's a fire? And I said, yes, I do. It's my mother-in-law. That's what I said, because I wanted no responsibility in that. So yeah, that was fun. But after the freeze, we were still having issues with your sister that lived with you. You kept talking to your brother. I set the boundary of like, I don't want to see that man. Like, I'm scared. Okay. He yelled at me. But I never, ever got in the way. I was like, whatever relationship you have with your siblings is yours to have. I just don't want to have that relationship right now.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the toughest things about going no contact is you have someone that you've trusted, that you've loved all of your life, that you've been able to depend on. It was a real struggle for me to see that they weren't the people that I thought they were.
Yeah, he's always operated under like, he's never lied to me, or, like, I believe that people always have good intentions, that my family always has good intentions, and they might not mean to be hurtful, but sometimes they might. Mm-hmm. We don't know. I don't know everyone's intention. I just know what I felt and what was happening to me. And so we kind of like kept our distance a little bit.
I tried to clear the air and say, man, that wasn't cool. What you did was fucked. And we talked through it. The justification was it was a high stress situation. It was a one-time thing. It's not going to happen again.
Right. And then he apologized, and we all went to Disney together. Not that the two are related, but they definitely were. And then that December was when we got engaged. And that was another fun moment. So we get engaged, and he didn't tell anyone because he had told someone.
I had asked for permission to take her hand in marriage. Like 2 days later, we get a call. Hey, y'all married yet?
And I was like, what? But I still was surprised. Okay. We got engaged by elephants, and then he went and posted it on Facebook. Mind you, again, he did not tell his siblings he was doing this. And so they were very upset that they were not told that he was going to do this. They were like really upset. And I was like, I don't understand, because my siblings also didn't know that this was happening, and no one's yelling at me. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't get it. And so that was like catalyst number one to like the downfall.
Yeah, I don't remember any of my siblings ever talking about getting engaged, getting married.
No, it was just they felt they had a right to you that maybe you did not agree with. And
I agree. I probably could have called them. I didn't realize they ended up being like one of my sisters doesn't have Facebook, so she wouldn't have known. Like,
yeah,
that would have been,
you could have like messaged her, but you didn't. I don't think you owed anybody the beforehand text. I really don't.
And I could see where you'd be upset with the after.
Yeah, but I don't think. Well,
I could have handled the communication better.
Yes. I don't think you had to do the before because you were nervous that someone was going to ruin it. I get it. You probably could have texted that one sister though. And then after that, we decided like we were going to get married. We were going to elope. We were going to go to Ireland. We decided that that's where we're going to get married in 2022 in December. Mm-hmm. Cool.
And that was one of the things that people kept asking real early on. So when y'all getting married? You know how old folks, anytime they see a couple together, they ask when you get married.
The kids started that first. My son kept asking.
And I found that as long as there's an answer, they're happy, they'd stop asking. Mm-hmm. So I started saying that we're going to get married in the summer in Croatia in 2022.
Yep. June 2022 in Croatia. Mm-hmm. And I was like, can we do Ireland instead and do it in December? because June was too fast. I didn't want to wait a whole another year. And so the big catalyst was we had a big wedding shower to celebrate because we were going to be eloping. So we wanted everyone to be able to celebrate with us. And two of his sisters decided to not show up, and they could have been there. They definitely could have been there. And leading up to this, okay, this is where Caley is not so perfect, okay? There are flaws in Caley's code, okay?
Never once.
So I did take a lot of things personally, because I just did. I had not known these people to have my best interest at heart. So a lot of things I did take personally. I felt like right before our wedding shower and right after we got engaged, there were things happening, and like one of his sisters was inviting his ex-girlfriend to family events. She didn't show up because she doesn't live in the same town as us. And then made it a point to tell me how great this ex-girlfriend was. And that because one of the sisters said I was the best girlfriend he's ever had. And then the other sister was like, well, if she said that's a high compliment because this girlfriend is amazing. And I'm here to break the news to you. No, she's fucking not. Okay? Y'all thought she was amazing. She's the worst.
You know what's crazy? They don't know the stuff that I've told you.
What?
They don't know the stuff. They don't know why she's the worst. And you never will.
She used you. That's all I'm going to say. She's a married spud who used you. Okay? Y'all can deduce what y'all want from that. But anyways, I took personally, like inviting like someone who I had not known you to have much contact with before to like family gatherings that I was going to be at. Like I was taking shit personally, and that was wrong of me. But you can ask him, I was not well during this period of my life. I was crying a lot. I didn't want to be near, like, even my own friends. I couldn't trust anybody. Like, I couldn't trust that anyone had, like, my best interest at heart. And, like, a big problem with us was he was not standing up for me. He's letting his brother yell at me. He was letting me be treated this way. And just essentially like leaving me out to the wolves, which then caused problems. And that is a you problem. That was a you thing. Mm-hmm. They like, and I can stand up for myself, but when you're constantly like, you know, this is their family, it's a tough space for you to be in as an outsider who's already the sole issue. Like everyone was using me as a scapegoat, and I just like nothing I did was ever right, and then I didn't want to be around them. But then I'm the asshole who's not letting them, like, who's not coming around, like, because if I'm not coming around, he's probably not coming around. And it's not because I say you can't come around, it's because he wants to be with me.
Yeah, because you're my favorite.
But then
person.
I'm the asshole who didn't let you come around. And so
and I
they
was
didn't
really hoping that my family is always picked, like, there's always a bad guy. My mom hates this person at this time,
right?
And they were the cause of all the family strife for whatever many months there was. And I was just thinking, this is something that's going to blow over. She's going to be the bad guy for, 3 months, as is the pattern. And then it'll be fine. She'll move on to somebody else.
They love a scapegoat that's not in the family because they can constantly blame me for everything. Mm-hmm. Like
bringing that back around to the Wicked plot line, you got to have a villain. People love to latch onto that.
Yep. And so they didn't show up to the engagement wedding shower. And we kind of took that, like, for me, I thought that was a form of protest, and they swear it's not, but that's what it felt like. And then you were very hurt because they could have been there. And then one of the sisters was like, well, I didn't think you would care. And he did care. It does hurt his feelings. And so we ended up having a big conversation with all the sisters, like a few months later after he stopped contacting them and kind of put some distance. He was like, we should all talk. Like, we all need to sit down and talk, and I need to express myself. Because he had been going to therapy and you were learning some things about yourself. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I had discovered that some of the reasoning why I don't like holidays, I don't like people,
birthdays.
I make it inconvenient for people to celebrate me because I was afraid people were going to let me down and weren't going to be there.
Right.
Case in point, wedding shower.
Yeah.
I don't like throughout my life, whenever possible, I would be out of town on my birthday, just in case people wouldn't prioritize coming to spend time with me. I went to college out of state, or as far as I can, to make sure that people didn't have to come to those things. And it was because I felt like I couldn't count on them. I always like tried to be the guy that they could count on. If someone needed something, I was the fixer. I was there to help. And I felt as though, I still feel like that doesn't get reciprocated. That's not something that I don't know who I can call to depend on.
Me.
Yeah, my baby. And some of that is just my own trauma, that there wasn't people to depend on growing up, that we were left alone, that I was let down so many times.
Yeah.
And I had articulated that to my siblings and told them, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is why I've taken such a step back. And I've realized that's why I do these things, because I don't feel like I could count on y'all. We had a good roundtable discussion about like how we've all been feeling, what's been going on. Mm-hmm. Most of like half of my sisters were pretty receptive to that.
Yeah. I think that conversation was what led me to set some severe boundaries, which I'll get into. But the sister that lived with him, like we all kind of went around and we like took responsibility, took accountability, apologized for things that we have done. And then the sister that lived with him was like, I don't know what I'm sorry for. Even after like I had expressed my feelings, they couldn't find anything to apologize for at all.
No accountability for their
Nothing.
actions.
And in the same breath was asking if I wanted to go to brunch to talk over issues. And I decided in that moment, no, like I don't ever want to see you.
We're talking now.
Like if 3 years, like, because at that point it was about 3 years that I have been like dealing with this. If after 3 years you can't come up with one thing that you're sorry for, and they were making kind of excuses and was like, if she does something that makes you mad, you need to tell her because she doesn't know that she's doing it. And to my knowledge, she does not have a disability, a mental illness that would cause her to not, to my knowledge and to her knowledge, from what she has told me, she is perfectly sane. Okay. So I have to take her at her word. She's perfectly sane and doesn't so.
Is sane the word, or is it on the spectrum?
No, she in her own words has said that she has no problems like that. Okay. So since she has no problems like that, I'm going to take her at her word. And I'm an adult. I'm not going to sit here and lead you to I'm not going to tell you every time you're doing something mean. Because even when I did do that, it was met with an excuse. So I do believe they knew when they were being mean. I just don't think they wanted to be accountable for it. Mm-hmm. And so from that moment, again, I never made any type of decision for him as for how he can have a relationship. I made decisions for me. So here's how the boundary started, because they didn't really start with you. I said, hey, after that conversation, hey, I've heard enough. I do not want to be around that sister. I do not want you to tell her anything about me. I do not want you to talk about our children with her. Y'all can have whatever relationship you want, but because at this point in time, in my mind, the reason I said, don't talk about me at all, I don't want her to have any access, was because literally anything that he was saying, like if he said, oh, Caley did XYZ, it was getting repeated to other people. And then other people were, even if it was a small thing, it was just, my business was getting spread out there without my consent and my knowledge. Especially after I said, hey, don't talk about me. And he would slip up sometimes, but for the most part, you respected that boundary. I was like, my boundary is I don't want to be around them and I don't want them to have access to me in any way, because it always got turned into a game of telephone and I came out looking like an asshole somehow for the smallest thing. And that's where the boundary started. And then that boundary extended to his brother. And then I've always kind of had a boundary with your mother, because I'm not going to have my kids in a cyclical relationship. you can have some unspoken boundaries.
Like every family has that one topic you don't talk about.
And one, I think throughout our relationship, I had set boundaries. My mistake was I did them very silently, and I should have done them. I should have let them know I was doing them, but I did not feel safe enough to do so. I think my boundaries are very clear now. I think everyone knows them. Things kept progressing, and I remember it was like July of 2023. You were like, every conversation with your mom via text message was just like,
It was just tearing me up.
it was never ending. It was like they were just constantly arguing, and then he would be going back and forth with this. They weren't having like productive conversations. At least once a week, he was getting a text message berating him, and then he was like defending himself to someone who did not care about how he felt. Like, are you having fun? Are you enjoying this? Like, what are you doing? Like, I remember we were actually on a vacation, and unprovoked, he's getting these messages just berating him, and like staying silent, didn't do anything. He would just get another one the next day or a week later, or you never knew when it was going to come. And then defending himself, it seemed to agitate it further. And I'm like, what are you hoping? I remember I said that to you. I was like, what are you hoping to get out of this? And I know deep down, I know you were hoping for change. And I think you really tried. You really tried to get her to see things, but unfortunately you can't always get them there. But he just kept trying and trying, and then finally on that vacation I was like, enough. I'm not gonna tell you like what to do with your life, but I am gonna ask you, do you want to do this forever? Like, what's your goal? Like, what are you hoping to get out of this? And then he said, like, hopefully like they can have a productive conversation. I'm like, well, has that happened?
No.
And
in 15 years of my adult life, no.
And he was just getting upset. It was just upsetting him. Like, that's all it was doing, was making you upset. And I'm just like, ugh, like, because I can't force this on you.
I don't see my mom. I don't talk to her on the phone. Just every once in a while I get a text message. Some days I could not worry about it. Just put it down. You read it. It bugs you a little bit. You put it down. You don't think about it.
Right.
Other days, your fuse is a little shorter.
But you were having more and more of the fuse short days.
It was turning into a pattern to where I was not a happy person. I was constantly thinking about it.
What it also was, for a while, you'd never responded to those things. And then you started responding for a few months. And so then she learned, if I just say the most egregious things to him, he's going to respond. And you were doing exactly, like, she was still having contact with you. It's kind of like, all publicity is good publicity. It was kind of like the vibe. So then you blocked her number. You have not had contact with her. What this comes down to is, well, what is no contact? What do you do if you have to see them? Because believe it or not, we've had to see her since then.
The hardest part is taking that step to finally say, I've had enough and I shouldn't be doing this. It's not helping my life.
Right.
It's actively hurting me. For a long time, I didn't realize that this, one, wasn't productive, two, was impacting myself, and three, impacting the people around me. Because if you have those moments where even if it's just one text message and your day is just a little bit worse, you treat the people around you poorly. And that was happening more and more as this was happening. My mom would bring up shit from my childhood. She would say just outrageous shit for no reason. I would refute it and have thoughtful responses, to be met with just vitriol that didn't matter.
Yeah.
It is tough to see that's what's happening, that this isn't helping your life and it's actively hurting it. Once your eyes are open to that, it's a really difficult decision to make the choice to say, I'm not seeing this person.
Yeah.
Especially if that's someone who's close to you, someone that you've depended on, who is supposed to be there for you, like family.
Like family. You chose to go no contact with your mom because obviously that was not a healthy dynamic. I've had to go no contact with a couple people in my own family. One in particular, it wasn't an announced no contact thing. Not that yours was announced either. You just blocked. I just had to decide every time someone stands up from the table, they're talking about that person. And I know that I was one of those people that was being talked about every time. I was hearing things this person was saying about me, this family member was saying about me, through like my own friends. Like, yeah, Caley's just always moving around. I have no clue where she lives anymore. And she's just, who knows, like all sorts of stuff about me, about how I moved around. And she didn't know of me well enough to even make that assumption. Caley never comes around, blah, blah, blah. I have 2 kids. Why am I driving out to you all the time? You could drive out here. Everyone just like let this person be that way. Let this person gossip about them and still continues to see this person. I'm tired of it because I'm giving you more ammunition. It was the same thing, same reason with your sister. Don't talk about about me, because you're just giving her more ammunition to say things about me. But if you don't see me, the only thing you can say is that Caley doesn't come around here. And at least that's true. So that's kind of like how my mindset's been with it. I don't want your sister to know anything about me, because the worst thing she can say about me is that Caley doesn't come around. And that's true. She could even think that Caley doesn't let Paul come around. Sure. You can think that. I don't care. That's not the truth, but you can think that. But that was like someone in my family. I was like, the worst thing you can say is I don't come around, and that's true. And at least I know that I'm not giving you any ammunition to like make up lies about me or assumptions about me. That one, I won't lie, was not very hard. There were other like no contact situations. Like your whole family thing was difficult. It was definitely more difficult for you to go no contact than it was for me. Family, friends, whatever, they should respect your boundaries. And my therapist always said, not everyone knows what boundaries you have. So vocalize them if you can. There are some that you shouldn't have to vocalize. Like, don't fucking scream at me. Don't cuss me out.
Don't insult your intelligence.
Yeah, there's certain ones that go without saying. One of mine is I don't like people kicking things around. It's very traumatic for me. It's a trigger. I don't like it. I will get like really upset if you kick something. That's a spoken one, so that he knows, hey, let me not kick things around because it really upsets Caley. And that's kind of a sillier one, really. Like, it's not what a real boundary is.
You don't know what other people's triggers are.
That's true. Setting boundaries with your family, one of my things was I need you to like actually not let them talk shit about me, because they were saying things about me like right to his face, and he just kind of took it. Like, one of my boundaries was like, hey,
don't do that.
if they're saying something, let's address it. Let's like not let it just hang there in the moment.
And that was really tough, because growing up, it was commonplace. It was my mom's catchphrase, you're a piece of shit. Unless someone was actively trying to hit me, it seemed like just something someone was saying.
Yeah.
Words hurt was a new concept to me.
When I was teaching him what boundaries were, like if you allow them to treat you that way, or if you allow them to talk about me that way, if you're letting them,
they're gonna keep doing it.
They're gonna keep doing it. If someone starts talking shit about you to your best friend, why do they feel so comfortable to do that? Is your best friend letting that happen, or are they speaking up?
And that's something that I've gravitated towards, is if there's something that's wrong, don't let it slide. I've sparked many a conversation with friends, colleagues, folks on Facebook. If they're saying something that is a problem, I'm going to tell them, hey, this seems like a problem. Did you mean it that way?
Yeah.
I try my very best not to make an attack, because a lot of time it's not an attack, that someone has like a bias or something that they are saying that don't realize is a problem. We were talking with my brother-in-law. I think he said the R word. I said, hey, that's a slur nowadays. You know, that's something you're not supposed to be saying. And then we had a like 20-minute conversation about, wait, so I need to police everything I say? It's like, no, you need to take other people's feelings into account when you're speaking. Well, then I need that's censorship. No, that's empathy. That is changing your vocabulary to make sure other people don't get hurt. It's a small thing each of us can do.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you have to. I'm saying you're a dick if you don't. If someone tells you this is harmful and you chose to say, I don't care if it's harmful, I'm going to do it anyway, even though, one, it brings no additional value to your life, it hurts other people. Why are we doing that?
Setting boundaries, and only you can decide what boundaries those are, what you're going to allow. Holding that boundary is the hardest part.
Yeah.
If someone chooses to continue to like cross your boundary, I mean, they're going to try to cross your boundary. If you let them, they're going to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. And I know it's easier said than done. Sometimes you just have to let people go. You want people to want you. Everyone wants to be loved, especially when it comes to family. You want those people to have your best interests at heart. But sometimes humans are selfish and they don't want to be accountable. They don't want to accept responsibility for the things that they have done wrong. They are used to certain dynamics. Your family was used to certain dynamics with you, and when it changed, it was not okay. But you know what? At the end of the day, this train was going to keep rolling. Like we were getting married, get over it. Like we got married, we're together, we're happy. This is the dynamic now. This is my family now. Mm-hmm. Going no contact is a natural progression to people crossing your boundaries repeatedly and not respecting them. In this case, like we have actually had to physically see the people we've gone no contact with. It's not up to his sisters whether or not he has a good relationship with his mom. Like they can have their feelings, they can have whatever relationship they want with her. It's not Paul's decision to say to his sisters, like, you should stop talking to mom. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to have different relationships with everyone in their family. You don't get to decide what that is. You can disagree with it all you want, But if someone doesn't want someone to be in their life, you have to respect it. It's not our choice to make. So there's been times where we've gone to a kid's birthday party and your mom has been there, and that's okay because the kid's not no contact with her.
Yeah.
Their mom's not no contact with his mother. I think we kept it real cute. We kind of kept our distance a little bit, and you might have said 2 or 3 words.
Yeah. Hey, good to see you. Glad you're healthy. I'm going to go over here.
Yeah, that was pretty much what it was. Again, that's something that's easier said than done because his mom was having a bad month. She probably wouldn't have even been there, honestly, but if she was there, she probably would have been a lot more poking, and like trying to get a rise out of you. Mm-hmm. So if you have like someone in your life that you've gone no contact with that's a lot more aggressive, persistent,
determined,
yeah, then you may have to avoid social settings with them if possible. We always talk to the host. Whoever's hosting, we always let them know, hey, we're coming. If it's going to be a problem, we don't have to come. We can do a little birthday thing on the side, because I never want to make the host who did nothing wrong feel like awkward.
Yeah. Either try to show up early, show up late, do something the day before, the day after, to show that we're still there. We still love you. We want to make sure that you feel wanted, that we appreciate the invitation, that we want to make sure that we're connected. Doing that, there are healthy ways to make sure you can maintain those boundaries or separation from people that you don't want in your life.
Right.
While maintaining relationships with folks that still have them.
And whether it's your mom, your brother, your sister, like you're not creepy uncle. You're not a bad person for wanting to set boundaries, for wanting to go no contact. Just because they're family doesn't mean they deserve to have access to your life. Mm-hmm. So no contact means no access to my life. You don't get to have me on Facebook, and you don't get to have me on Instagram. You don't get to see my kids. That's just what it means for no contact. But boundaries, you can have small boundaries, big boundaries, and you can still have access to these people if you want to. But make sure if you set a boundary, you hold it, because nobody's going to respect a boundary that you're not holding. Mm-hmm. And you need to do it for yourself.
Those were the problems that I had for years, was I would tell people, hey, we shouldn't be treating each other this way. And that would just allow it to keep happening.
You allow them to keep treating you that way, yeah.
People always say they're your family. They will always be there. No matter what, they will always be your family. Life's going to change up and down. They're going to be your family. That doesn't give them a free pass to hurt you. Mm-hmm. That's not an infinite forgiveness card.
And this was none of this was an easy, quick step for either of us. This was almost 5 years in the making. I mean, for you and your mom, it was years and years, but
Decades.
It was almost 5 years of our relationship, of us navigating this and coming to the decision. And it's made us stronger. It's made us happier. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of concern with like going no contact with family is, what about holidays? What about big events? And from someone who is an orphan and has not had a lot of big events, we make it big in other ways. We have like friends that we have dubbed our family. We go out of town a lot for vacations, which is partially feeding into his own personal trauma. I'm missing my parents on holidays, like no matter what. But if I'm doing something fun and on vacation, it like the sting is a little bit less. Mm-hmm. And the kids really enjoy like going on these trips. We make it special in other ways. For Thanksgiving, we made enchiladas. We are starting our own traditions, and we're kind of navigating it. And we're meeting up with family next weekend to do Christmas, because we weren't there for Christmas. You make your own traditions, and so going no contact doesn't mean you can't have amazing memories. You don't have to go out of town to have amazing memories. Sometimes we like to do like themed movie nights where we cook food that goes with the movie, and sometimes we just like to have non-traditional like holiday food. Mm-hmm. We like to go out of town for the kids' birthdays because they prefer that over doing a big birthday party.
Imagine how many times you've gotten gifts growing up. Do you remember, what toy you got on your 6th birthday?
No.
My kids are going to remember going to Canada forever.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be trips, because like not everyone is going to be able to like
afford it or be able to swing that time.
The holidays are so stressful. I don't miss going to 7 different holidays, and we get all stressed out over a fucking bird. For turkey and ham.
There's always somebody who has something to say about other people's cooking. They didn't bring anything, but they hate everything you made.
Yeah. So just like make sure that you make it special for whatever you want to do. Do something that you want to do. If you're going no contact and that means you have smaller, peaceful holidays, I think that's amazing. You're always going to miss who you think that person could have been because it's a different type of grief, right? You can't keep someone around because of their potential. That's even what you believe their potential to be, not what their true potential actually is. If they're not able to treat you fairly and be kind, they don't have a whole lot of potential then, do they? Like, if they can't even do that, if they can't even be kind to you.
Potential is useless if it's not being utilized.
Correct.
Blood is not thicker than water. Not the way you think. I heard a lot growing up that those people are family. They're stick with you. Blood is thicker than water.
Yeehaw.
Do you know where that saying came from?
No.
No. It's a parable. There's tons of little sayings where back in the day, someone would say the first half of something and someone else was supposed to repeat the second half to make sure that they like link together. Throughout time, people have only remembered, say, the first half or a small bit of it, and then they've been twisted into the wrong thing. Blood is thicker than the water is one of them. I've always heard that as your family will always be there. These other people, they don't matter. They'll give up on you, but family won't. Untrue.
Family is forever.
The full saying is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which means the connections we make, like on purpose, the ones that we go out, seek and choose and build ourselves, are stronger than the ones just tied down from birth. You didn't choose who your family was.
Right.
You went out and found people that were good and benefited you and made those meaningful connections with them.
Love it. And that's a great place to end and go into our rocks.
Rocks.
All right. So my rock from last time was to be more zen when I traveled and to like be calm. And I think I succeeded because I was packed and I was ready to go. It was smooth. I had like the best travel experience I've ever had. And we had a 5-hour layover and I still made it through. I did get a little grumpy and I was like, hey man, I'm grumpy. We need to get straight to that hotel ASAP when you pick me up. I'm tired. But all in all,
wasn't that bad.
I did it. My rock is to make a bomb ass cake for my best friend Mackenzie's birthday. And I will put a picture up here because it's going to be bomb. Bomb cake right here. The end. Go ahead. What?
Listen, how dare you already have accomplished your rock for this week?
Yeah, shut up. Go.
The week is over. I mean,
I'm not making a new one. That's my rock.
So my rock last time was to understand the process of how to put a citizen-led law on the ballot here in Texas. Turns out you can't do that. Some other states have done it, and they're allowed to. But in Texas, they're afraid that standard citizen puts a law or a bill on a ballot, it won't do it the right way. So I did learn the steps to reach out to my congressman to put something on a ballot. They want to draft it because apparently they know the legalese to make it work. Long story short, Texas senators think we're dumb. But I understand. 17 million Americans think chocolate milk comes from brown cows. They may have a point.
How now, brown cow?
Yeah. This week is going to be a little bit different of a rock. I've been political recently. I decided new year, new me. Last year, I found out I have high blood pressure. So I've made it a point this last week to exercise more, to try to make sure I'm getting some cardio and to take care of myself better. I need to work out today. So.
And you also need to stop trying to eat cereal.
Cereal's delicious and I love it.
We're trying to take care of your blood pressure. You got it. You have to eat right.
Listen, I haven't had
The doctor said you have to lose 20 pounds.
I haven't had cereal in a year, and I'm still the way I am. So maybe cereal wasn't the problem.
I think it's because instead of cereal, you're now eating PB&Js at 11 p.m.
I love peanut butter and jelly. That crunchy peanut butter.
The doctor said you have to lose 20 pounds. Okay.
Yeah, my doctors have been telling me that for years.
Right. And like, sidebar is like, my blood pressure runs high. It's always been high. And I'm like, Paul, that's for years then. That's been putting a strain on your heart. Your heart is working overtime. And if you do that for a very long period of time, you're going to die.
Yeah, but everyone dies eventually.
I don't want to be a widow at 33 because I'm going to say that if you passed, it would be after I turned 33, not before.
So you got me 6 months to live, huh?
5. So take care of yourself. And I think all bodies are beautiful, but if your doctor says that you need to be on high blood pressure medication, you need to take that seriously so you don't die of a heart attack. I'm not ready to be a widow yet.
Yeah, so this week I was trying to set a pattern to go to the gym more, to actively prioritize my health. I had a salad this week for dinner. I've worked out several times. I'm going to be able to work out a couple more times.
I ate a vegetable.
Actually, I had that conversation with Weston. I said, you know what? We should have a salad tonight because I haven't had a vegetable in a couple days.
And I'm going to meal prep tomorrow, and I'm going to take real good care of you. Oh, sorry.
So my rocks have been political recently. I want to make a personal rock this week because, again, what we do, taking care of yourself first, will help you in the long run.
Put on your oxygen mask first.
Before you put on the children's, yeah.
Amen. I don't know why I said that. I'm not religious. Can you cut that out?
No, that's going in. That might be in the intro now. Just a little bit of yeehaw, amen. Boy, howdy.
Ugh. Ugh.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's the show.
That's our podcast for this week. Next week, I personally think we should talk about media bias. I had found out this week that Germany is teaching current American political propaganda in their schools to allow children to identify it.
I have some pop culture related media bias that would be fun for that too. So we'll see you next week.
Media bias.
Bye.
Bye.
I have 2 kids. Why am I driving out to you all the time? You could drive out here.